Hey guys, what's up? Carter here. Got another video for you. This is going to be a little bit of a closer look at this particular knife. This is the Direware Solo V2, so the version 2 of the Direware Solo knife. This is a custom that I actually ordered from the maker. It took about 9 months to get it, and yeah, it is something else. I'm a little conflicted with this knife though, first off. So what I'm going to do is actually do a 2-video series. One is just going to be, I'm going to try to be as subjective and just do a review, kind of showing the features and things like that. And then I'm going to do another video, kind of a thoughts video on a few concerns that I have with this knife. First off, you've got about a 3.5 inch blade. Overall length's about 7.5 inches, somewhere around there. If you compare it to a Paramilitary 2, you can see overall length, it's got some extra, not a ton, but it does have little over a 1/4 inch is all as far as length goes. Cutting edge, the actual total length is basically the exact same from tip to where it starts. However, the Solo V has more actual cutting surface, if that makes sense, because it's not a straight up. It kind of curves here. This knife is kind of part of the whole overbuilt, crazy tank knife craze that is currently going on. Strider was kind of the forefront of that particular craze, and since then things have just been getting pushed further and further with makers like Carrillo and Kingdom Armory, Trident Knives, now known as Crusader Forge, Mikkel Williamson, Direware, even Jake Hoback. Although Jake's into the whole overbuilt tank thing, but he does a lot of smaller size knives too. A lot of these other makers, you know, their signature knives are 4-inch blades or greater. So this one's actually kind of small compared to those, but yeah. So it's part of that whole movement. And when I placed the order for this knife, I was totally head first into that. So let's take a look at what this knife is used for. Obviously, it's a folding blade, tip up, tip down, right hand carry. It's got a pocket clip, so it's meant to be carried in the pocket or some sort of pouch or bag or something like that. The idea behind this knife is that it could be used for a multitude of things. It could be used as a defensive blade. It's got this great recurve here, kind of this just very cool compound ground, interesting blade shape. A lot of different surfaces on there. Could definitely, excuse me, definitely could be used as a defensive blade, tactical blade, that type of thing, as well as just general cutting tasks. Even though it's really thick, heavy, and big, the actual blade stock is not all that thick. You can see it actually almost kind of looks odd because the handle is so wide and the scales are actually thicker than the blade stock in the center, at least. And then when you actually come down here, because it's hollow ground, it actually makes for a really good slicer. You have a nice thick tip that's not going to break off. Not only is it thick this way, because of the blade shape, how it comes up like this, you know, unlike the Para 2, part of the reason why it's got a little bit of a fragile tip is not only does it get thin this way, it gets thin this way too. So just the surface just diminishes both ways as it gets to the tip. Whereas this knife holds that thickness both this way and this way. So very strong tip. This could definitely be used kind of as a prying tool. It can be used as a blunt tool, you know, for hammering, as well as a non-lethal defensive type tool. You could really use this for a lot of different things. Really overbuilt, huge pivot, you know, kind of a standard on the overbuilt knife thing. The weight on this, 10 ounces. 10 ounces, so it is a formidable knife. It is heavy, it is beefy, and yet because of the bearing system, it just flies open. I'm assuming that the lock face is carbonized. I can't see in there because this is a really thin cutout, how that's done there. Very, very thin, which I actually really like, because I don't see any point in having, you know, those huge gaps. It just seems like it's more opportunity for debris to get inside there, as well as running into, you know, some lock stabilization issues where you can actually move the lock back and things like that. So I actually prefer, if given a choice, to have a really thin cutout there. But anyways, yeah, so I can't see in there, but there is no stick. I mean, it doesn't matter if you fling this thing open, that was a bad example. Doesn't matter if you do that or if you just kind of lightly open it. Another thing worth noting is the lock geometry on this is outstanding. Just outstanding. I mean, aside from being able to look at it, you can see how well it mates together and how as it wears in it's just going to mate further and further together. But another good test of lock geometry, kind of like what I did just there, is if you flick it open with force or open it slowly, if it's engaging the same amount each time, that is excellent. That is what you want. Kind of a sign of some trouble is when you flick it open hard and the lock goes over way more than when you kind of open it slowly. So definitely a good sign there. Has overextender bar inserted in here. I think I mentioned that in my first look video. Everything on here is just great. The ergonomics are absolutely stunning and perfect. You can get your thumb in to disengage this lock easily. It's chamfered, no, well, not chamfered, but beveled on the inside here, as well as on the carbon fiber side. By the way, this is a solid piece of carbon fiber. You can see how thick that is. It's about half an inch. Titanium side is not quite as thick as that. Thumb studs act as blade stops. So it's actually only touching the titanium side. So this is where the actual active blade stop is where it hits right there. Pocket clip is tip up, tip down, right hand carry, as you can see there. Great retention, really good retention. Actually goes in the pocket pretty easily. Even though it doesn't look like you'd be able to get much in there, you actually can slide that in there very well. And even though this has these huge standoffs kind of lifting this pocket clip up, it actually does not interfere with the grip whatsoever. I'm not sure if that's the same with the tip down carry option. I haven't switched it, but definitely very comfortable. Overall, I mean, just a stunning knife. You can see perfectly centered. Everything is just well crafted. And one of the things that really speaks to me about this knife is the balance between style and artistry and, you know, function. It's got a very distinctive look to it, so much so that it kind of reminds me of Strider. Not that it looks like a Strider, but just, you know, Strider has that distinctive kind of silhouette, and so does this. I mean, you can, if you've seen a Direware, you can spot a Direware just by looking at the shape and the grinds. Just very distinctive. Absolutely a cool custom knife. You know, as far as its practicality goes, that's definitely up for debate, and that's kind of what I'm going to talk about in my next video, kind of the practicality of this knife. And I'm still debating whether I am going to keep it or sell it, so we shall see. But yeah, so there's another kind of closer look at this beautiful blade. Absolutely love the way this thing looks. Really nice. It's just a screamer, guys. Really. Everything is so nicely contoured. I mean, look at all the machining that would have to take place to round everything like that. Nothing out of place. It's gorgeous. Reverse grip. Just as comfortable, if not more. Really cool. Alright guys, so that's that. This is my somewhat review of the Direware Solo V that I picked up. Very cool custom, very beefy. I mean, it takes the cake on the term beefy, overbuilt knife. And what's surprising is how massive this feels, even though the blade length is not really all that huge. Alright guys, take it easy, have a good night, and I will